Hello everyone, welcome to this course on the Cold War. Today let us learn about the concept of Cuban Missile Crisis. What is this Cuban Missile Crisis? We are going to learn in detail about what is the Cuban Missile Crisis. So you can see the picture here, the Cuban Missile Crisis. It is the first stage where the world has set to an issue. So let us see first what happened in April 1961. In the April 1961, the USSR, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, was concerned that the US would invade Cuba. Now, in April 1961, this issue happened that the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, the modern day Russia, was concerned that the United States would invade Cuba. Now, why would the United States invade Cuba? Now, for that, you can see the second point here. A Soviet ally that received diplomatic and financial assistance from Soviet and deposed Fidel Castro, the Cuba's president. Now, there was a military coup which happened during that period in 1960s. So, Fidel Castro became the president of Cuba, which is located in the southern part of United States of America. So now, Cuba is an ally of Soviet. Cuba receives diplomatic and financial assistance from Soviet Union. Because there is a military coup which happened, the USSR felt that the USA would invade Cuba and they would try to stop from Fidel Castro becoming the Cuba's president. This was the issue which happened in April 1961. So what happened in 1962? You can see here. In 1962, the Soviet Union leader Nikita Khrushchev decided to turn Cuba into a Russian military base and stationed nuclear missiles there. So with a fear on the hearts of the Soviet Union leaders, looking at the Cuba's political changes which happened in 1960s, so they decided to convert Cuba as a Russian military base and stationed the nuclear missiles in the Cuba island. Now, this is the turn which happened in 1962. In 1961, we learned what happened during that period. As you were aware that in 1961, in 1961, the USSR was afraid and concerned that US would invade Cuba. So they want to save Cuba. They decided to convert the Cuban island as a Russian military base in order to safeguard Cuba. What happened then? For the first time, the weapons placed the United States under the threat from a very close range. Due to the deploying of the missiles in the Cuban island, for the first time in the history post World War II, the weapons were placed so directly that they can attack the United States from a very close range, and nearly doubling the number of bases on the American mainland that could be threatened by the Soviet Union. Due to the step taken by the Soviet leader Nikita, now the United States is under the direct threat, and from a very close range, this has threatened the security of United States. After 3 weeks of installation, Americans became aware of it after 21 days, literally 3 weeks after the USSR has installed their missiles at a very close range. Americans became aware of this move, this installation of the missiles. President John F. Kennedy, the then President of the United States, was wary of doing anything that could lead to a full-scale nuclear war between the two superpowers. Now, they have understood that there have been missiles which are being installed there. They are at a very close range. They are at a threat. But the President was worrying that if we do anything that could lead to a full-scale nuclear war between the two superpowers, so we should handle this situation very carefully. So what happened then? Because the nuclear war was never a better option, Khrushchev was ordered to remove nuclear weapons and missiles from Cuba. Now, John F. Kennedy was very clear that the nuclear war was never a better option. So they ordered the Russian or the USSR leadership, Nikita Khrushchev, to remove the nuclear weapons and the missiles from Cuba. The American warships were also ordered to intercept, to stop the Soviet ships heading to Cuba as a symbol of the warning. Seriously, now Americans cannot just be idle looking at the warships, the nuclear weapons and the missiles moving close to Cuba, which is very close to the American mainland. As you can see the picture here on the news headlines as well, ultimatum to Khrushchev, move those missiles, the blockade. So there was a symbol of resistance, a warning of a seriousness that he has to remove his warheads. So what happened then? The prospect, the possibility of the war between the two, United States and the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, alarmed the entire world. There could be a great war ahead. The prospect, the possibility, as would not have been an ordinary conflict, because when the two superpowers fight, definitely there is a chance that there could be a usage of nuclear weapons and a great disaster. So both sides eventually decided to avoid the war, United States and the Soviet Union. The Soviet ships slowed down and reversed the course. The Cuban Missile Crisis was a turning point in the so-called Cold War. So finally the war was stopped, but it became the first turning point in the Cold War. So to quickly make you aware, it started in April 1961. What was the reason for this one? It is because in 1961 the USSR was concerned that the United States would invade Cuba. Why would they invade Cuba? Because Fidel Castro, they want to depose Fidel Castro, who came up through a military coup, and the Cuba, a small island in the Latin American countries, was receiving a diplomatic and a financial assistance from the Soviet Union. It is also a close ally. In order to stop this, what did the Soviet Union leadership do? In 1962, the Soviet Union leader Nikita Khrushchev decided to turn Cuba into a Russian military base and stationed nuclear missiles there to save Cuba and to stop the United States from deposing the Cuban President Fidel Castro. Now, when the missiles were stationed here for the first time, the weapons placed the United States under threat from a very close range, and this made the Americans feel threatened. The American mainland that could be threatened by the Soviet Union. And this moment continued for weeks. After 3 weeks of installation, the Americans became aware of the nuclear missiles that are being stationed at a very close point to attack the United States. The then president in 1960s, President John F. Kennedy of the United States, was wary of doing anything that could lead to a full-scale nuclear war between the two superpowers. Now, because the nuclear war was never a better option, Khrushchev was ordered to remove the nuclear weapons and missiles from Cuba. Now, the American warships were also ordered to intercept, to stop the Soviet ships heading to Cuba as a symbol of warning the seriousness by the United States. Now, the prospect of war between the United States and the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics alarmed the entire world, as it would have been no ordinary conflict. It would have been an extraordinary conflict, a great disaster, huge damage for the entire world. So both sides eventually decided to avoid the war. The Soviet ships slowed down and reversed the course back towards the Soviet stations, and the Cuban Missile Crisis was a turning point in the so-called Cold War. So this is about the Cuban Missile Crisis. Stay tuned. We'll catch you in the next section.